Tervetuloa Rautaan. Welcome to Rauta. This is Dead Reptile Shrine Tales of the Unknown review, which I must say is one of the most peculiar, one of the most weird of releases to come here in all times, probably at least during this year. Let me unbox this for you while I tell you about this album and the band. Now, this is an interesting release in so many ways. First of all, this is not just metal music release, nor it is a compilation, even though it might sound a little bit like that. And why did Reptile Shrine, a Finnish band that is being debated whether it's one-man band or band of many members? This has been there for 19 years, and it's always been one of those weird acts. Not your typical metal music, not your typical music in any sense. Here's the track list: 15 songs all in all, about 73 minutes. And those of you who don't know the band at all, well, I'll tell you, you will be embarking one goddamn interesting, weird, annoying, and unmusical adventure if you join Dead Reptile Shrine. So here we have the inside of the booklet, which is filled with lyrics and art. And this is very interesting album. First of all, it's not purely metal, but it definitely has metal in it. It's kind of a combination of ritual music, music that it reminds me of 80s synthesizer hits, and music that is just plain raw black metal. Some of the vocals are just really raw, kind of a screamy type, and I think one of the better ones actually. And then there are some kind of a clean vocals, some spoken parts. So it's kind of a thing of many faces. This also applies to the music as well, because some of the riffs are just kind of like bad riffing, the kind of rehearsal room outtakes where some of the riffs don't just go anywhere. They're like more like, I got this idea, oh well, maybe not, blah blah blah. And some of the ideas are just like great, like okay, now it is going in weird places. So it's like a mix of different styles, not only in terms of extreme metal. I mean, you might have some hints of like Greek black metal at some point, then you're just like suddenly listening to these kind of 80s synthesizer hits. Then it's just like ritual drumming and spoken parts, movie samples, and all that stuff, which create kind of a compilation kind of a vibe with this album. Now, when I'm saying that this is not album for anybody, I kind of mean it, because this is very of acquired taste kind of thing. And still, even though you might be very acquired thing, taste thing, it still might feel like, okay, this is not my cup of tea. I mean, some of the tracks might be, and then the next track might be just like, oh, this is horrible, which then again makes it hard for me to kind of review, like give this kind of a critic, because I think some of the parts are just next to horrible. They are like, why don't you just remove these? And this is a lot said, considering that the guy doing this music is actually a good friend of mine, and I was like, maybe I'm too biased to actually talk about this album. And then I'm like, what the hell? I've been doing this kind of stuff before. And so there you have it. Some of the parts are horrible, and some of them are quite good, in fact, which makes this even weirder, because this is like a combination of a madman, insanity, Cthulhuan worshipper, and then some genius mind, which is really brilliant and all that stuff. And this I can pretty much say from the perspective that I know the guy, known him from, I don't know, mid-90s. So I know this guy, and he's one of the, I think, most interesting persons in the world. I mean, he's a great guy, he's a brilliant guy, and he can be really odd. And I think this music just reflects all those sides quite nicely. Nice being a bit of a weird word for this kind of stuff. So it's combination which we have on this album, 73 minutes. It's something that it's not easily digested. Like I said, some parts are good and some parts are horrible, and most of the stuff are just like wandering about between these two extremities. And now I know there are people who understand and like what Dead Reptile Shrine is doing, and for this I could totally recommend this album. But for most people, even in the terms of extreme metal scene, I wouldn't recommend this album to most of those guys or gals. And not only because this album is a bit weird, but because this is just like too unmusic for them. This is like the vortex of chaos. Then you have some Cthulhuan aspects. Then you have some minds of an insane people. And then they are blended together and add lots of these genius, weird things. One could say this is art music, but I don't know if it holds true. And this is definitely not your avant-garde-ish kind of a thing. Like maybe you just don't understand it, or maybe it's too abstract and all that stuff. I think it's nonsense. I think this is just a creation of a very creative mind that just seems to create music which is very, very far away from your typical rock and roll or metal music creations. So while it definitely has metal riffing and drums and all that stuff, it's still very far away from these concepts, how to create and write music that actually fit the terms like rock and roll, metal, black metal, or otherwise. Um, I don't know. This is kind of an impossible album to totally describe because it's so many various elements and ideas. So what you can actually do is to check out the samples. There's at least one which I have included in the description box below, and let's just hope that the link will keep working because that will give you a little bit of insight what lies inside. And trust me, if you are into this album, there will be 73 minutes of this weird, magnificent stuff. So whether or not you understand it fully or don't, at least it's totally different what you are used to, both good and bad. So take it as you will. But I must say, be warned, this is not your typical cup of tea. There you have it. Thank you for watching and listening. See you soon with more Rauta reviews coming your way.